Damn. I know I'm always
Hello.
extra. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. I was being
Yes.
extra. I was being extra, and you missed it. I'll do it again. Fam.
No, it's okay.
No. I like to get a little extra and stuff. Guys, do us a favor. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. I don't have my computer because my computer got Vault 7'd, which means they zapped it from the inside, so I couldn't post up stuff about the election. Just kidding. That's my opinion. Who knows nowadays? Because one thing that is definitely not true, and is not a rumor, is that I am now working with La Femme Nikita. How are you? Can you hear me, fam?
What's up? I can hear
Why
you.
can't you?
Why do you think I can't hear you?
Because it seems like there's a delay.
Oh, maybe there's a delay, but I can certainly hear you.
Okay,
Let
make
me
sure you
check my
let
internet
me.
connection and make.
Yeah, you're paused. You're paused.
Come
Ah,
back in.
okay. Come out and come back in.
Not sure.
You coming out? You're staying in.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you
No,
hear
that's
me?
better. Yep.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. You seem like you were delayed and then you were pausing for a little bit, so it could have been the internet. Guys, do us a favor. If you're over on YouTube, give us a like, give us a share. Going over to that Rockfin as well. We need some help and we need some love. And also, we of course are on Rockfin, our free speech platform. We are live over there as well. This is the edition of Fiorella, aka La Femme Nikita, gets labeled as a Russia state affiliated media. And then, of course, our analysis on Brazil's first round elections, which we both said that there was going to be a second round. But however, we wanted to make sure that we got there for the first round, get our boots on the ground, get a feeling to what's going on, and see what's what. It was an amazing experience, guys. Because of you, you made it possible, and you guys always make it possible. And I can't thank you guys enough. These are life changing, but we still have a lot of bills to pay and a lot of things to take care of. So givesendgo.com/the combo couch, Brazil with a Z. Next time I will spell it with an S. Fam, let's just jump right into it. You want to share, everybody? Please do so. Fam, what do you want to talk about first?
Do you want to do the Brazil election wrap up first,
Well,
or?
it's up to you. Unless you want to talk about the Russia stuff, I can do that. But we can go right into the Brazil wrap up and then leave it for the end. I think everybody knows now, but we'll just touch up on the end if you want. It's up to you. You're the boss.
Okay, well, why don't we just talk about it then if it's on everybody's minds?
It's on
So
everybody's mind.
yeah, I was labeled. I found out last night that I was labeled Russia state affiliated media. This is really annoying, not because of the label, but because our Twitter refuses to verify me, but they somehow have verified that I work for RT, right? They have to have verified that I work for RT because they have designated RT as a Russia state affiliated media. However, when I tried to get verified nearly a month ago, they denied me, and they didn't tell me why. They denied me within like 2 hours. And I obviously I work there. There's multiple videos. There like I'm and so I don't understand, and so I can't apply for I can apply now again shortly, but it's not even that I want it to be verified as much as the fact that verification does provide more protection because people target my account all the time. They've been trying to take it down forever. And I get all these bots trying to report me all the time. And so with a verification, you would be it's harder for them to do that. So they've plopped this label of Russia state affiliated media on my Twitter, but they don't recognize me as a journalist, even though they're recognizing that I work for RT as a journalist. So I don't know what to tell you. You can try to twist it in any way, shape, or form that you want, but it is inherently unfair that anybody that works for RT or Press TV, which Canada now wants to sanction, um, is labeled Iranian state media or Russia state affiliated media on our personal Twitter pages that have nothing to do with who we work for. CNN, MSNBC, Fox, The Hill, none of these people are labeled anything, but we are. And the reason we are is because they don't want the alternative narratives being told. China gets Chinese state affiliated media. Have you guys seen a Ukrainian state affiliated media? You'll see Ukrainian organizations, but you won't see all the NAFO bots and all these people be labeled Ukrainian state affiliated media. And they are more Ukrainian state affiliated media because they're the ones actually pushing a lot of this propaganda. A lot of the stuff I talk about is directly what's happening on the ground, or things that I have seen. And it's kind of crazy how people make an excuse. They're like, well, you live in Moscow and you work for RT, so. But it's like, yeah, but are we going to talk about the big elephant in the room? The fact that the United States government has merged with media, and Twitter is a private company, and they can do whatever they want. But if they're going to label one entity, people who work for a country, Russia state affiliated media, then they can must label then Ukraine. They must label their allies, the NATO affiliates, CNN. The fact that we have so many ex-government officials working for CNN, especially within like the covert action uh sort of spectrum, like the CIA, the national security state apparatus. We literally have Jen Psaki, who was the press secretary for the Biden administration, working at MSNBC. Yet there's no label for that. How do you not? There's nobody at RT right now that I work with that works for the Russian government. Literally, that has worked with Vladimir Putin in the past. That has like, but Jen Psaki worked for the Biden administration, then goes and jumps back in to MSNBC. So even if you could argue that somebody is Russia state affiliated media because they work in a media company that has some government funding, how can you be so angry about that, no matter how you feel about Russia or Putin, if Jen Psaki, who has been on the Biden administration's press secretary payroll, gets to go and do the same type of propaganda literally on MSNBC, and there's no label for her. And this is what I mean by, I don't care how many times you tell me Twitter is a private company, the government has merged with the private corporate sector. That is one of the definitions, one of the things that makes up fascism. This is where we're at right now. Because
Mhm.
no matter how you feel about Russia, that is the fact that's happening right now in the government of the United States.
Um, as the token Italian guy in the room, I can definitely say that as the definition by Benito Mussolini, it's the merger of corporations and state. And this is big media. This is one of the biggest corporations out there. They own the media. I mean, we're going to discuss some stuff today when we talk about Brazil, about a narrative that's out there, a propaganda narrative, and how it sticks. And one of the reasons it sticks is not because they're putting out that information, is that they get to control the information. They put out the information they want, and they suppress the other information that we come forth, which is mainly the truth, what we see on the ground and what we see wherever. And they suppress that, and they demonize and they smear. And we are at a time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not just saying this because, to be honest with you, this took longer than I thought, fam. It really did. I thought I was going to do this sooner, but it still doesn't make it right. And I think a lot of people have to start yelling and start voicing what they think and what's going on. And if you can't see the issues with this, just like you couldn't see it with Julian Assange, you better wake up, because this is about control. This is about suppressing your voice, about anybody's voice. It's like what Julian said. They're not after him. They were after us. They were just using him to get to us. And
Mhm.
too many people were silent on that. And this is going to continue to happen on and on and on and on and on. And you'll have owners, like George Carlin said. They own you. They own the media. They own the medical industry. They own the pharmacies. They own the military industrial complex. They own big oil. They own big agriculture. They'll control us, and we'll have nothing left if we don't stop this right now. It's beyond time, ladies and gentlemen. It is go time. Fam, go ahead.
And I just wanted to add, because you said about what Julian said, this isn't about him. This is not about me. This is about you. This is about them keeping you away from what I'm saying, because they don't want you to access that information. And I said that in my breakdown on my thread. This isn't about me. This isn't about all of the journalists that have been labeled. Russia state affiliated media. Yes, it what it does is it shadow bans us constantly. Our reach is limited. There is proof of that. Multiple articles have been written about how they literally make it impossible or harder for people to like somebody, to find somebody. Accounts that we from other journalists we know that were reporting on Venezuela during the sanctions were also shadow banned and sanctioned. Any Iranian account, any Chinese account, anything that differs from the state narrative of the United States. So the United States boasts that they have independent, private media, right? But they don't, because that media has to follow this line. People who work at these stations like MSNBC, CNN get told they can only talk about things in a certain way, things that I'm not even told where I work. So it's just kind of insane to me that, I get to have my show, I get to say whatever the hell I want to say. And yet here we have the United States that is trying to stop you, the people, from getting access to any counter narrative. And if their narrative were so perfect and so complete, why would they ban you from looking at other media? Why would they do that? What is in it for them to be doing this, right? And it's the fact that their narrative is falling apart, that more and more people are seeing the reality of what's going on in Russia on the ground, and what's been happening, of course, in the Donbass. A lot of journalists are there. A lot of them are my friends, and some of them don't even know each other. And they're all reporting the same thing. Are they all lying? Are all the thousands of observers lying? Why are so many journalists moving to Russia? Why is Edward Snowden given citizenship in Russia? Why can't he be safe in the United States, his country? Because the United States is persecuting people who are telling the truth, because the United States government is corrupt, and because if the American people don't hold that government accountable, that no longer represents the will of the people, then you're not neither following the Constitution, nor are you following your fellow Americans. Because being an actual American doesn't mean allowing corruption to continue. And that is why a lot of Americans, Canadians, and people from the West are reporting these things on Russia, not because they hate the United States, but because they hate what this government is doing in our name with our tax dollars. And the fact is that they're trying to silence you from accounts like mine and others who are reporting the truth. And again, it goes against you. They're trying to control you. You should be angry that they do this, because what it does is limit the other perspective, and you don't get the full picture, and your friends and family don't get the full picture. And then they repeat the same talking points from CNN given by the State Department and given to them by MSNBC. And meanwhile, you have people risking their life on the ground, going to these actual places trying to report the truth, and they get told that, they get put on kill lists for one, and then they get told that they're lying, and they get told that they're just pushing out Russian propaganda. I've had these views for a long time before I worked for RT. I have always felt this way. This is something that I've even gotten more radicalized. And every time I go into the global South and I see the results of the U.S. hegemony and U.S. imperialism, I get even more radicalized. And that's not Putin whispering in my ear and telling me, hey, Fiorella, do this. And it's not RT telling me, do this. This is me. I wanted to work for a network like RT. That's one of the only networks I would ever work for, to be honest. There's only like three, and none of them are CNN, MSNBC, BBC, any of these people that try to purport this certain skewed narrative that only benefits, of course, we know, right, an elite corporate class and the State Department. We want peace. Americans want peace. Russians want peace. Ukrainians want peace. And the majority of people that aren't in government want peace. It is the officials in government that keep waging these wars. And now what we're talking about, with Putin's speech that we sort of went over, right? He pretty much laid out in history what's been going on. NATO has been wanting to get rid of Russia for a very long time, since before the fall of the USSR, the Soviet Union. And now, of course, we're at a moment where Russia feels like they're fighting for their existence. Because if there was no opposition, and I tell this to Russians all the time, Russia would cease to exist. The education they get, the healthcare, all these things, it wouldn't happen. It would be westernized. And so these people are fighting for their culture, the same as people in Latin America are fighting to have national sovereignty and exert their national sovereignty. And that's all this is. And we need to be, if you're an American citizen, you should be a leading voice standing up against this hegemony, because it's you who are in the heart of the beast. And it is really up to the American people to see this through.
Fam, I don't know about you, but if the Hill came knocking on my door and wanted me to come to work for them, I'd go to work for them. And I don't care what anybody says. I would never restrict myself. I'd never take a job where I couldn't say what I wanted, but I would say what I want and have them fire me. But I don't think I would ever really be seriously taken for one of those other roles from one of those networks you talked about. So let's get into it, guys. I put it up there one more time. GiveSendGo.com, the Convo Couch Brazil. We just got back. I am delirious. I'm on a couple hours of sleep. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm starting to get the dry skin, fam, as soon as I get in here to Las Vegas. Guys, I got some messages, some trolls in the chat. I'll let you guys handle that. You guys are the moderators. You guys do what you want to do. We welcome the trolls. We don't give a damn. The haters want to hate. Let them hate. We don't care. We're going to still do us. And what we did was we went to Brazil. And I'm going to say this right now, fam, because I might be doing a pasta rant tomorrow about what is going on over at InfoWars. Because InfoWars has sucking lately when it comes to elections. And they had some goon on, a friend of mine sent it, and I just watched when it comes to elections. Well, I got to say lately, because at one point they were the only network to have Bev Harris on. And nobody was letting her on when she had all the goods, when she was the top of the food chain doing this stuff. And they let her get on there. And Benny Smith's Fractured Magic, it was the only place it was on. It was on an InfoWars, and they did a great job of it. But since this whole situation, when they've bought into 2,000 Mules and the tactics they're using, since they're buying into this bullshit now, they had some goon on over there, fam, just telling bullshit lies and just making shit up. Let me say this right now. And this is a message to any of the patriots or any of those people on the conservative side that are fighting for election integrity, because I've already said this to the leftist donkeys that are there and left or whatever, and they're done persona non grata. If you are serious about election integrity, you have to be serious about your reporting. You have to be serious about your analysis, and you cannot bullshit. You cannot make things up. There was no stopping of any counting in Brazil whatsoever, so just cut it out. And I will explain this through my pasta rant, because I'm going to watch the whole thing and I'm just going to have at it. If you start talking bullshit right now, whether you're Republican, Democrat, whatever, you have to be nonpartisan when it comes to elections. You have to be fair. You have to call balls and strikes accurately. Don't make shit up. Don't just say because you saw this and that. Bullshit. Fee and I were there. And we're going to explain it through this whole thread coming on right now. So let's get the ball rolling, but we still have a lot of expenses. GiveSendGo.com. The Convo Couch Brazil is there. Let's get into the first one, because we started off the day, fam. It was an amazing day. Mr. Lula went to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So should we play the video?
Yeah, let's play the video quickly.
Okay, here we go. Hit mute.
Calma, gente. Calma. Calma. Presidente. Só um pouquinho, presidente. Aí, aqui, presidente. Aqui, presidente. Aqui, ó. Presidente. Aqui, presidente. Positivo aqui, ó. Aqui. Mais pra cá, presidente. Mais pra cá. Presidente. Pra cá, presidente. Pra cá, presidente. Só um segundo, presidente. Obrigado, presidente. Obrigado. Pra cá, presidente. É mesmo. Vamos ver se ele... Aqui. Aqui, presidente.
Okay. So
Go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, there's lots of dumb comments in the chat.
Like what? Because I can't
If
see. Because
Lula is
yeah,
okay, if Lula is a globalist, then so is Jair Bolsonaro, because Jair Bolsonaro attended the World Economic Forum. Yeah, he literally did. We've seen the pictures. He's there. So if you're just gonna go based on pictures and attendance, Jair Bolsonaro, your dude, is also a globalist. Jair
correct.
Bolsonaro is a privatization king. I mean, the guy has let in Monsanto, Bayer, pretty much mercenaries that go and are killing people, who because they want to privatize. Big agribusiness wants to privatize the everything that's beautiful in Brazil, the Amazon, essentially, and all the natural resources. Brazil is a rich country, much like many countries in Latin America. Why are all these riches in Brazil not going to the people of Brazil? Why? They're being exported out by these multinational corporations. You can't be a anti-globalist and literally be a part of privatization and multinational corporations. That's the epitome of globalism. And so anybody pushing him is a complete and total moron, because he's literally in the pockets of big business. And if you're talking about the farmers in the Netherlands, and if you're afraid of the disgusting toxins and chemicals that there are being put in our food, literally the people fighting that are the MST, and these people that are the land back movement, trying to get land back from these corporations, because literally it is like the Klaus Schwab plan on steroids in Brazil right now. They're trying to privatize every single entity of the Amazon. Now, that's not saying that Lula is the most perfect, most leftist, most base candidate in the world, but more Brazilians did vote for him. Now, we've talked about how it wasn't there's a lot of divide there for a multitude of reasons. But there is a fact that one of these guys is against that sort of privatization of the Amazon, and the other is for it. And honestly, and seeing how people live and seeing people on the ground, if you just go on my post and you comment, oh, why is Lula attending the World Economic Forum, and you haven't seen any of our coverage, and you haven't seen how people are living on the ground, and you have no idea how Brazil's politics is and where it stems from, and how it's so similar to the United States and its historic structure of how literally Brazil, the country itself, is extremely racist. I would even say far more than the United States, and any way, like literally, like, you know, what Brazil is like the United States, and if in so many ways, but it is worse in terms of the disparity of wealth, in terms of the racial inequality, in terms of the privatization, that's getting even worse. And in terms of the homelessness and houselessness, that's the United States in 5 to 10 years, give or take.
Yeah. Can I
Literally.
say this
And
too?
yeah,
I just
go
want to
ahead.
piggyback really quick. I know you could talk about this for hours, but in everything you're saying, I'm just like, get it, girl. Boom, bam, everything. Because I'm sick and tired of people saying, all right, this guy went to the World Economic Forum. He's a globalist. Everybody goes to the World Economic Forum. They want access to power. If you're going to say they got a picture with Klaus Schwab, oh, okay. I have a video, Trumpers, of Trump coming in saying, let me tell you something. Klaus Schwab is doing a great job. He's done a fantastic job, a better job than the Democrats. And that's just the truth. And oh, by the way, China. But no, I mean, he's gone in there. He said that he's done a good job, and then go, oh, it's not about globalism. It's about nationalism. You need access to power. You guys don't know what you're talking about when you say, oh, that Bolsonaro is not a globalist himself. He has led in multinational corporations to take away agriculture. And just like you're talking about these people in the Netherlands, you're going to be silent when it comes to Bolsonaro? No, because you don't know. And I don't like to say this is because you didn't go there. We went there. You want to know why some banks are back in Lula? You want to know some big money's back in Lula? You want to know why some entities are back in Lula? Because they see social unrest and they fear that it's going to be a beyond fallen state, a state of chaos, a state of social revolution if Bolsonaro gets back in there. Now, can you blame the COVID shit on Bolsonaro? Fine, you can't. But whether you like it or not, the country's in shambles, and a lot of those big interests, They want the country to go back to being stable. And they saw Lula, who's had 2 terms and providing stability, especially to the favelas and all the poor people there. So that's why they put their money behind Lula. You can't just be a one-person thing in a country far, far away when you don't know what's going on. You guys know how I feel about that other stuff. I'm almost done. You know how I feel about that other stuff. But at the end of the day, the biggest problem in this country, in this world, is hunger. People are dying of hunger. We see people digging in the trash in Brazil. Bolsonaro did not do a good job when it comes to the poor people, and that's why he is not going to win this race. Or if he's going to win this race, it's going to be very, very close. Go ahead, fam.
Yeah, I mean, I think going into the second round, so we'll talk about that in a minute, but Lula has to basically make more alliances, and that's really what it's going to take to win. The difference in income level from the people who support Lula to support Bolsonaro is vast. The vast majority of people who support Bolsonaro are have more money, and we don't say, oh, we're not identity politics people, but the vast majority of them are definitely white, and the vast majority of them have a completely negative view of poverty and poor people, right? So we've been built up in the system to think that anybody that's poor is an idiot and is lazy and is bad. So there's this element in Latin America, and I sort of talked about it on Sabi Sabs and on Jimmy a little bit, where there's a hatred towards the poor, there's a hatred towards what is viewed as less civilized people, right? Less people who aren't part of society in the way society is structured. Now, that is one of the sentiments against Lula, because they see him as corrupt. They say he's a corrupt guy, but they don't address the fact that those charges were dropped. They just don't like him, and it's that simple. Yeah, well, and you said it's confirmation bias. I think confirmation bias is true, but it also comes from a plethora of other things that they just don't like him. A lot of propaganda. The media in Brazil is very much like our media. It is biased, and the media was largely at fault for helping put Lula behind bars. Now, as Pasta just mentioned, large portions of the media and the centrists and the petty bourgeois, like the small business owners, are in favor of Lula now. Why? Because they see where this is going, guys. Literally, Brazil is the most unsafe country in Latin America that I have been in. I have felt the most unsafe in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and Rio is worse. Rio is worse, by the way. So the fact is, I got my phone stolen while working, while doing something, like literally working and just calling an Uber. 3 other people, one of them being 6'6", also got his phone stolen. I mean, this isn't a joke. You're unsafe. There's so much poverty, tent cities, houselessness, drug, and like you see people really taking drugs in the street. This is like complete deindustrialization, right? We're seeing everything come to shambles. A country that what is the largest economy was supposed to be of South America. It has a metro, has trains, has all of this, but it's all in decay. And it's hard to explain that to people who haven't been there to see. It changes you, because Pasta, you going in, I know that the vaccine issue was a huge issue to you, and it still is. And it's not like it's not to me, but for me, I see the hunger and the people and the needs of people, the immediate needs, right? Like hunger, warmth, shelter, all these things that are biological needs that a human being needs as a primary thing, because they're not going to look beyond that. And so what I think is to me, when you just give such a surface level analysis, it's so similar to what I see when people say, yeah, but Russia is also is doing imperialism. It's the same thing I see. It's that very lazy surface level analysis. It takes you really going to these countries, understanding the history of these countries at the very least, and talking to people, or at least talking to people who do. Because just going on Google and finding a picture of Klaus Schwab with all these people doesn't literally do it at all.
It makes no sense, and I'm sick and tired. And that's even to my friends who were fucking doing these pictures with Xi Jinping and Klaus Schwab and whatever. Please, this is access to power, and these are third world countries going to these big entities to try to meet other people, to trade with, to talk with other nation states, which I really don't even believe in when it comes to a lot of stuff. I believe there's so many strings being pulled. But I mean, when people say, "Oh, Lula is pro-vaccine," yeah, but he's anti-mandate. Same thing with Donald Trump. Same thing with DeSantis. Do I like that? No, I don't like it at all. I hate it. But guess what? That's not the only issue. And the reason why the media now is starting to swing his way is because they see what Bolsonaro is doing. Bolsonaro has given up the Amazon, has given agriculture to big agriculture, plain and simple. So you can't be good for the goose. You can't be good for the gander. That's the way it is. The place is in chaos and it's about to blow. And the guy who won 2 terms before and did a lot for the poor people, and we know because we went into the favelas, okay? There's a reason why he kept the place stable. At least, was it the best place in the world? Is he the best president ever? No, but there's a reason why the people are supporting him. And now, because they used to say, I used to have milk and eggs in my refrigerator. Now I got nothing. I got nothing. Whether it was his fault or not, and I'm not saying it was, 28,000 industries pretty much closed in Brazil. That's why the bourgeois class, or the work, I like to call them the owner class, a lot of them are saying, screw this Bolsonaro shit. We got to go with Lula because it's so unstable. It was
And they don't even like him. And they don't even like it.
him.
And they want to vote for him. And the same thing, some of the more left people in Brazil, the literal communists in Brazil, they're like, yeah, he's not a communist and I think he could be better. He's just a progressive. But we need to get to a point where we have something for Brazil. And somebody was like, "Oh, Bolsonaro's 10,000 times better on crime." Oh, really? Because under Bolsonaro,
that is so untrue. That is so untrue.
I've seen so
I don't know who's saying
much
that. That's some
crime.
stupid shit.
Somebody in the chat,
It's some
Wall
stupid
Martin
shit.
said that.
Oh, that guy, he's been
Listen,
saying all that stuff too as well. He's like, "Oh, that's some stupid shit, dude." We had 3 people get their phone stolen in
Come
one
to
night.
Brazil. I want you to have your I want you to have your phone. I want you to walk it in the middle of the streets. You know, when I talk about Moscow, I say I could walk at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning by myself as a woman. Nothing will happen to me. I realize what that, like, how real that is coming here. It was like 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock, something like that. And that's when all this stuff happened to a bunch of people. So don't tell me that it's better under Bolsonaro, because it's not. In fact, you can go look at the poverty index and look at the poverty index and how Brazil got out of it under Lula and how Brazil went back into it with Bolsonaro. Did Bolsonaro cause all these problems that have been plaguing Brazil forever? No, because Brazil is a capitalist neoliberal country and it's in decay. And to me, there's a lot of issues that Brazil has had that haven't been resolved since its inception. Okay, so obviously no one person is going to end it or start it, but there are ways that people's lives were improved with the direction of the social safety nets to education, housing, and healthcare. So those are things that people need. They're basic things. That's all these people want. They're not a bunch of socialists trying to elect a progressive Democrat. It's like, no, we liked what he did, what he was on his way of doing. And we need that now more than ever with Bolsonaro.
Look at this comment. Here's Wall. Okay, my man. This is Wall. I can't. Fam, you gotta help me out.
Talk about this.
I don't have my computer so close. It's a little bit of distance. So gotta help me out. But it says Wal Martins. Brazil has the lowest inflation in the G20. They know where Brazil is going. It has the lowest inflation, but when nobody has money to buy anything, what difference does it make? We see people digging in trash cans on a regular basis, dude. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many industries closed during the COVID? Do you know how many people got thrown out of their house? You don't even know what you're talking about. You're just throwing out bullshit talking points here.
So, okay, first of all, inflation is really high in Brazil right now. So even if what you say is true, okay, let's say what you say is true. How do you measure a country's success? Right? Because if you measure a country's success by the GDP and things like gross domestic product, and things like the inflation rate only, right? You're only measuring the people that are doing well. You're not measuring the people that aren't doing well, because those people don't matter to you. In fact, those people aren't even in the fucking system. Those people don't even have electricity. And guess what? If they do have electricity, the wires are exposed in a lot of these buildings, whether they're in the favela or the inner city, and then fires start with the rain. And guess what? All their shit, all their documents gets burned up, and they don't even have like a chance to be actually in the system, and it takes forever to actually get them back in the system. And so when you're talking about inflation rates and the GDP, you're not taking into account the poorest people that don't even make your fucking statistic because it's not convenient. And this goes for any country, not just Brazil. When Joe Biden talks about, oh, the inflation rate isn't even that bad, we are seeing job growth, blah blah blah. The same thing Trump did, in spite of the fact that he made one of the largest transfers of wealth to the elites, as has
Mhm.
Biden. Eh, so they're saying, "Oh, our GDP is great. We're growing." Oh, for who's great? Who? Oh, that small percentage that you're actually measuring the GDP from. What about everybody else that can't pay their rent? And by the way, these people that live in favelas, a lot of them have jobs, just like the homeless people here in Los Angeles and the homeless people all over the world. The ones that work for Disney, the ones that can't afford to live in a house because they work for Disney and they can't buy or rent any apartments near their job, so they have to drive 2 hours, and a lot of the times they end up sleeping in their cars because they can't. We've had this problem for a long time. This is nothing new. So when don't give me the oh, our GDP. Your GDP means shit when you don't take into account the poorest people in the country. It means shit, okay?
I mean, we literally see people diving in the trash, ladies and gentlemen, diving in the trash. It looks worse than LA. I mean, because it's all over there. It's all over there. And yes, as we get into the show, somebody put in the chat, Chris Leone left the Super Ray. In fact, let me read it right now. I'm going to read it right now, fam, because I think it's so relevant to the conversation. Chris Leone, we love you. We love you all there. Guys, do us a favor. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. Remember, you can always help out. GiveSendGo.com, the Combo Couch, Brazil. We are still looking for some love. We had to take care of this trip all on our backs. It's so expensive, but we did it with you guys, and it's amazing that you guys were able to help. And Rob McMurtry, of course, was the first to jump in. Thank you for the Super 8 contribution. But Chris Leone said, and listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, because this is the crux of it. This is 2 days before I left. The day after the election, I was like, I woke up and I was shaking my head because this is something that is so, so true. And this is what it's all about. We have to figure this out. We talked about this in the car, right, fam? Remember this? Fiorella, what you describe about the people from Brazil hating the poor sounds a lot like the Latinos who voted for Trump, who hate themselves, are poor and brown, and also hate the poor and brown. I am sick of people who say that Cubans and certain Latinos are white when the whites all see us Latinos as brown, no matter where we are from. You guys rock and deserve all the support in the world. I'm going to speak on this first real quick, and I'm going to hand it over to Fee. This is the biggest issue, ladies and gentlemen, in my mind. And I don't know what we can do to solve this. I don't know what we can do to build a bridge to this. It is a problem because a lot of the times when we talk to a lot of the cab drivers or the Uber drivers in Sao Paulo, we say, why are you for Bolsonaro? Because the majority of them were for Bolsonaro. These are gig economy drivers, got to work your ass off just to pay your rent and stuff. Why are you for Bolsonaro? Lula is corrupt. Really? But he was acquitted for all troubles. No. It seemed like confirmation bias. There always seems to be a disdain, and especially in Brazil, for the working class, even the poor working class, towards the poor and the impoverished and the homeless. Lula said this in an interview with Glenn Greenwald. Glenn, come on, Glenn. He said, he goes, you saw what it was when I became the president, and we helped the most impoverished. We helped the people who slipped through the cracks. Did he make them millionaires? No, but he got them food, and that was his campaign promise this time. I want every Brazilian to have a cup of coffee, 2 square meals, and a roof over their head. That's what I want. But when they were showing up at the airport, indigenous people, poor people, for the first times in their lives, getting to fly, getting to go, getting to travel somewhere, they were looked upon with disgust. They were looked upon with disdain. Chris Leon, what you said right over there, that is what we witnessed too as well. And when I woke up, I was scratching my head, right? I was scratching my head. Now, I don't like the term petty bourgeois or the bourgeois class too as well, because that's the owner class. And I still think there's a divisiveness between the working class and the owner class when you use that kind of terminology and stuff like that. But we cannot ignore that the fact is that the working class, the class that can barely pay their bills, same thing with the working class in this country, have a disdain and a disgust for the poor. And they're fighting each other and they're split with each other. And I think a lot of people voted for Bolsonaro because of that, because they saw Lula in the past take resources and get them into the poorest neighbors. We took the neighborhoods. We talked to the people from MST, okay, which was one of the bigger. There's one more bigger, but one of the biggest labor movements there is. A peasant movement from the 1980s that is a 1.5 million strong over there. They said that Lula got money into the favelas. Lula got money into the poor people's hands for education, for food, whatnot. Lula was saying in his speech not too long ago, I see Brazilians suffering and starving, and I don't want it anymore. I don't want 2 children to split an egg. I don't want children to eat crackers for dinner. We need to have some pride and get some resources back into these people's hands. And I think when a lot of people see that, it's like that guy who saw me at the wannabe 7-Eleven fam. Oh, we need Bolsonaro because we don't want to turn into Cuba. We don't want to turn into Nicaragua. They see any type of movement of finances to the poor as a form of communism. And I said this before. Lula is still a capitalist. He's a good compromise between the communist and capitalist. This is my opinion, not Fee. She might disagree. I think he's a good compromise there because he will at least get some resources to the poorest of the poor. And I think that's what's important. And I think that's where Bolsonaro has failed. Bolsonaro has labeled the MST as a terrorist organization. There's been situations when Fee was talking about it's got a Blackwater situation where it's a privatized state-style military and they're killing indigenous landowners. That is the problem. That is where Bolsonaro has failed. So regardless, when you hear Donald Trump going, Bolsonaro has put you on the map, he's full of shit. You're looking at one issue. And it's a big issue for me, but it's not the only other issue. Fam.
And yeah, I mean the business class is when we're talking about business, I'm talking big business. I'm talking about corporations. I'm not talking about somebody that's a small business owner. I'm not talking about somebody that is just doing their best to put food on the table. We're talking about literal multinational corporations, and of course, people that are billionaires are going to support that. I mean, that's their class. What Pasta said to a lot of the Bolsonaro supporters we were talking to, it is a method of self-hate because they don't want to be that. They're afraid of being that. They're afraid of being so close to that. And I've had this conversation before when it comes to homelessness in the United States, right? A lot of people show disdain towards people who are homeless because they don't want to be that. Because they know that most of them are one paycheck away from becoming unhoused, that they're literally one paycheck away from being that person out in the streets. And they see it as a loss of dignity, as a hatred for the poor. And they hate the poor because they don't want to be the poor, because they think that if they work hard enough, they can have as much money as an Elon Musk, as a Bolsonaro, as a Trump. And guess what? You can't. Because the system is functioning only for a certain group of people. It's rigged for you, but it's functioning well for the welfare queens, the billionaires of the world that get to do whatever the hell they want.
Okay, I'm sorry, fam. I'm getting worked up right now. Walmart this. Now listen to this. Look at this bullshit here again. I'm sorry, my friend. We love when people come in and disagree with us, but you're really striking out today. Poor states in Brazil are poor because they are governed by Lula's party. Bullshit. Those poor states that you're talking about, Sao Paulo, Rio, they voted for Bolsonaro. They're mostly Bolsonaro supporters. They have Bolsonaro people within their governments. That's BS, man. You're just making stuff up at this point right now, dude. You're making stuff up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I can't, man. I can't. Like, dude, go there. This is the same rhetoric, and this is the same stupid rhetoric we heard, in the United States too, as well. Oh, all the blue states is what's the problem. The red states and the governors, they're just fine. Dude, Florida, whether it was open for the pandemic or not, had some of the worst freaking unemployment rates and people working for the lowest amount of money for quite some time. Okay, they were one of the poorest states. There was no middle class in Florida. You either had money or you were poor working class. So don't start with that stuff. Your boy Donald Trump voted for the CARES Act, the most highest freaking handout to all the big corporations. Malarkey over here. That's all I have to say. Plain old malarkey.
Yeah. Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, the poorest states in the country, also red states. Why? Because it doesn't matter if they're Democrats or Republicans. They both suck. And that's what we're saying here. At the end of the day, we wanted the people of Brazil to exert their sovereign right. And as Pasta was saying, from what we saw, the elections were fair. Notice how less people complained about the election now that Bolsonaro made it to the second round. I'll throw that one out there. The elections, like we said before, we would like to have a paper trail for every single vote. There is a paper trail for the tally sheets for the actas, or that's what they call them in Peru for the tally sheets of each poll area. But of course, we would like a little bit more. But guess what? The system's open source. They have ID. They have fingerprinting. It's very quick. I didn't see people wait more than 5 minutes or so. And even the poorest people have places to go. Is it as accessible as other states or other countries we've been in? No, not for the poor. It's not. They have to take a taxi or have somebody pick them up and get them there, or walk a really long time. Because the people that live in the favelas often don't even have documents.
Yeah.
So it's not like, trust me, if more people in Brazil were able to vote and were in the system and had documents and had education, or were which is what the MSC is trying to do, that Lula would have won hands down. But
Yeah.
only 30% roughly of the people in the favelas vote, period.
Yeah.
And the rest and are too poor or uninformed to vote. So that just goes to show you the situation there.
And the problem is a national problem, my friend. You can start with this again. In my state, Lula's power was in power, and that's why we were just straight. Listen, it's multinational corporations who are taking all the resources and everything else out of Brazil and exporting it. That's a national issue, my man. That's a national issue, or my lady. I don't know if men or women. I don't. Dude, it's a national issue. People told us that it's more expensive for them sometimes to buy their own food that's coming from their own country than it's cheaper in other countries when they send it out. That's what they're doing. This is a national issue. And Bolsonaro has given it up to the multinational corporations. Plus, he's dirtied it and destroyed the Amazon. Right on one thing.
Yeah, and that's as globalist as it gets, by the way. No matter how you fix it.
Let's get to Fee's reporting, because Fee did some amazing reporting. This was outside of the first precinct that I went to early in that morning to see a setup. Fee went and saw Lula vote, which you just saw. So let's take a look at this right over here. This is Fee on the spot. People are awaiting the results, and the polls are closed, and the count begins. It looks like Lula's in the lead, of Bolsonaro because of economic reasons, but the fight is still going on. Take a look.
The polls have now closed between Jair Bolsonaro, the conservative right-wing populist and current president of Brazil, and Lula da Silva, the comeback candidate who has been released from jail after facing corruption charges. The leftist candidate is the favorite to win this presidential election. 44% of Brazilians have vocalized a strong disgust of Bolsonaro's current economic policies that have hurt the middle and working classes, so much so that many people, including centrists and more center-leaning business owners and the general public, are not happy with the current presidency and are willing to vote for Lula da Silva. Bolsonaro supporters mainly praise him for his actions for big business, agribusiness, and for putting Brazil on the map economically. This, of course, is in contrast to Lula da Silva supporters who say the privatization that has happened under Bolsonaro has regressed the country back years and has put many people in the streets. Brazil is facing a high increase in homelessness and poverty, with tent cities popping up all over the cities. Lula da Silva supporters focused on the strengths of his candidates being his attention to the working class and to families in need, especially after the pandemic.
I voted for Lula because it's like a useful vote. Like they've been saying here, the voto útil. It's not like my favorite candidate. I would have voted communist, but I don't believe that they had a chance this federal election.
Yeah.
So I have hope for no runoff, for Lula to win in the first round. So that's my vote. Look at the numbers of population voting for him, what he has done, like literally, not politically, just all the things that he has done.
Fam, I want to play the other the one really quick because it's connected to it, and we'll finish up.
Await the results of the election. So much of writing on whether the country will continue to push for the privatization of agriculture, the environment in the Amazon, and of course, the question of poverty is big on many people's minds. There is a clear marked class difference between the voters of Lula da Silva and Bolsonaro, as Bolsonaro has garnered support for business owners and higher wage earners.
I support Bolsonaro. He's against corruption.
Okay.
He's a patriot, and he did a lot of good things for poor people. And the media wants to hide everything that he did, but the people know.
Do you see like a lot of similarities between Bolsonaro and Trump?
Yes, a lot. They talk too much.
That's what everybody
They talk
says.
too much sometimes. He didn't need to be so rude, but he's real. So he tells what he thinks. That's it.
The latest polls show Bolsonaro is likely to be defeated by Lula da Silva's comeback, having da Silva at over 50% in most polls, including the IPEC poll. Whoever ends up being Brazil's president will definitely determine much of the country's direction, including in foreign policy, but mainly in economic domestic issues. Many of Bolsonaro's supporters have followed his lead and cast out on Brazil's election system because it is a fully electronic system. However, Brazil's electoral officials have said that Bolsonaro's claims are not valid and hold no water, and that Brazil's election system has been around for years, at least 10 years, and that there is no reason to doubt today's result.
I'm gonna have to mute us during these videos, family. We're getting a little bit of echo, but I'll handle that
Yeah.
for now. We'll just mute during the.
I told you to mute me. Sorry.
Okay. Oh, you can mute yourself too as well. It's very easy. But go ahead.
But if I mute myself, it won't let me back in next time. That's what happened before. So
It will
I
let
don't
you-
want to mute myself.
It should let you unmute, but if it doesn't, I'll take care of it. But go ahead.
Well, basically that was just a wrap up of what we all just said, right? Like, you can see the wealth disparity and also obviously elements of racial disparity between the two. There is like a sector of the Uber drivers and the gig economy workers that were voting for Bolsonaro. But again, it also depends on what your goals are, right? If your goal is to be an Uber driver and get a nicer car, maybe get a Mercedes to earn more money to then be, take a vacation and that sort of thing, then your goal is different than somebody that wants maybe, basic things like food and electricity and a shelter and wants to, go to school and get educated and have access to these things. I mean, this also comes down to what people's moral and ideological values are. But I think at the end of the day, most Brazilians were voting for economic concerns, and I think it showed. I do think that Bolsonaro got closer because of a lot of the propaganda and the corruption charges against Lula more than anything. And here are some of the things that Pasta had too.
So this is some of the slips. We went into this. I went to an opening. I put that up, and I'll show the opening. This is the closing. So when I looked at these numbers, every single computer, I went from room to room to room to room to room. None of them were connected to the internet. None of them were plugged into the internet. We went to election officials to talk to them. And like Fam said, at the end of the day, I'm never going to fully endorse myself personally, a full electronical DRE, which stands for direct recording electronic device. That's what they have over there. However, they are open source. They have audit systems that go through every single way. Bolsonaro went under the same system and he didn't say anything. It's hard for me to believe that he's being honest when he's criticizing it, because he went under it. And why wouldn't he complain there? So you can see right over here, this is the list of one of the rooms. It has all the votes, the candidate's number, and then the votes right there. In this particular one, Lula has 85. Bolsonaro has 137. And this is more of an affluent area. Once again, Lula got 85, Bolsonaro 136. Each room can do about 430 something odd votes. And that's something we need to talk about. Fam talked about 5 minutes to vote. It's expedient to vote. It's expedient. You get in and out. Even in the poor favela areas, they had to wait a little while, but not even that bad. Fam, what's the name for the favela? I forgot again.
Comunidades.
Okay. Lula 94. Bolsonaro 132, Lula 97, Bolsonaro 133. We went and we checked these areas, and inside these particular precincts, fam, we went and we saw when they started, and those tickets said 0 on it. They were all zeroed out. I take this system over what we got because all the counting is done where the ballots cast. That's where the numbers come from, and then they're passed on. They're not taken to an area where they're centrally tabulized and just going through a whole freaking machine where they can cheat. But once again, I've said it before. Yeah, I am not crazy if there's not a hand-marked paper ballot, right? And there's that receipt there. But this is definitely better than what the United States has. We talked about every single bit of the way. Bolsonaro won under this system. I don't know how he can complain now if things just don't go his way. Seems a little bit uneven, fam, if you're asking me.
Yeah, and just so you guys know, that polling location where Pasta went was in a wealthier area. It was in a upper class area, middle upper class to upper class area. So I would actually say upper class area more than anything. So you can see that the votes were more so for Bolsonaro. In the votes in the areas where there was more favela type of voters and working class voters, they tended to be heavily for Lula, but the process was the same. The process was the exact same.
And here it is. Here's the opening. I'm going to post over here, guys. I'm going to play the video. And here it is. So the first checks and balances are in play, and here in Sao Paulo and at the Brazil elections are the most ready to begin. And here in Sao Paulo, now the Brazilians choose their next presidents. It should have been Brazilians decide, but I'm a boomer and I used the wrong one. I'm going to play the video, guys, so you can see exactly what happened at this precinct, and you know what's what.
Governor and president.
Okay, so let me show this here.
Here it's the electors actors is the number of people who can vote here, and the total of...
What's the number of people that can vote here? Okay, where's that number?
Which one?
How many people can vote in this particular?
Yeah, it's 390
And 90 in this one?
one.
Okay, beautiful.
And like that federal deputy, the people can vote, the number of votes that are for the deputy, the personally here for the party, that you can just vote for the party, like it's blank votes, the new votes, and the total votes that should be 0. So for all position state deputies, for senators.
And you can see they're all 0 right now, everybody.
All 0. And
Very important.
Yeah, 0.
And it's picking up.
This is the list of all candidates.
Jesus.
Yeah. Because now it's like for federal deputies, state deputies, there are a lot of candidates.
And you've been working the system for this is your 4th time, you said? And
yeah.
Very efficient.
Governor and president.
Okay, so let me show this here.
Here it's the electors actors is the number of people who can vote here, and the total of...
What's the number of people that can vote here? Okay, where's that number? I want to say
Which one?
How many people can vote in this particular?
Yeah, it's here 390
and 90 in this one.
In the
okay,
row.
Beautiful.
And like that federal deputy, here the people who can vote, the number of votes that are for the deputy, in the personally here for the party, that you can just vote for the party, like it's blank votes, the new votes, and the total votes that should be 0. So for all position state deputies, for senators,
and you can see they're all 0 right now,
yeah,
everybody.
all 0. And
very important.
Yeah, 0.
And it's just picking up.
This is the list of all candidates.
Jesus.
Yeah. Because now it's like for federal deputy, state deputy, there are a lot of candidates. And
you've been working the system for this is your 4th time, you said? And
yeah.
Very efficient. Okay. Yeah. And you can see that's the first check.
Yes.
But it hasn't been cut yet there, so it's still...
Yeah,
okay.
The name of all candidates, but it will be...
Perfect. And now what do you do with this report?
And now I have to store it for when you finish the election, we have to put all together to send to the electoral court.
Awesome.
Yeah, so they will check all, like that. Yes, it was no votes.
No votes.
Before the.
Perfect.
And
We
all
saw the
have,
zeros.
We all have to sign.
Perfect. I'm going to sit in the corner until you do the next thing. Thank you so much.
There you go, fam. Go ahead.
Okay.
And that was it. Now they have it, and then they all go down. All the 4 people in the room, or the 3 people in the room, depending on how many is each in there, they will sign that sheet that they got all that there. They'll make 5 copies of each one. One will be sent off to the local. One will be sent wherever. Eventually to the national. They're all signed on it. And then at the end, they do the same thing when they get the results like we showed you. And they put those results on the wall for people to see. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Just like we talked about the elections in Colombia. Remember what I said, fam? The fact that they can sit there in front of every single mesa and get a count. Petro needs to have somebody from each one of his party at every single table across the country. They have the power to do it and to report those results, so there's no messing around. Bolsonaro could do the same thing to make sure he's not cheated. And if they have a machine that's in question, they can go and they have the right to open up that machine and look at it all, look at the software, see what it was doing. There's a 10 audit system there. There's 10 steps to their audit in which they can challenge these things. A Bolsonaro representative can be in every single friggin' room and get the results so it's not cheated elsewhere. So don't tell me that this is bullshit and it's cheated. Special love and shout out to Lucky Burrito, who said the Brazilian people decide, and Don DeBar for telling me I had an echo. I love you. Appreciate
it. And yeah, and that was what Pasta showed was before the last video we saw, which was after. So that was just showing you that everything said 0. That way people say, there was no like inserted numbers, for any one candidate, which is important because these are some of the claims that were made in the US election, which is a totally closed source system. So we can't prove that there wasn't any shenanigans. Yep. In fact, we can more so prove that there were, because because of the closed source systems and the lack of chain of custody and everything. But at least Brazil has a clear chain of custody and open source system, and allows people like us to come in and film. They would never allow us to come in and do that in the United States. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing too, as well, where it's cast, it is counted. Ladies and gentlemen, read my lips. No new taxes. That was my George Herbert Walker, but no, George, whatever, the older Bush. Read my lips. Where it's cast, it is counted. Where it's cast, it is counted. Bolsonaro can have a member in every single location and they can't cheat it. And if they have an area where it's like, yo, these numbers look off, they'll know exactly what machines to look at and what to do. I mean, I'm not saying that the system can't be cheated because it's an electronical system, but it's going to be very hard because it's transparent and there's access to everything. And where it's counted, it's casted. And there's no mail-in. And there's no drop boxes. And you won in the system before, you donkey. Fam, I want to show some love for the people of the favelas, or damn, I can't even say that word you tell me about it all the time.
The comunidades, yeah.
Yes, this is what we experience. This is some amazing stuff, folks. Check this out. Ready? So we had the echo again.
Ele deu educação, saúde, habitação pro povo. É por isso que ele foi condenado. É Lula! É Lula! É Lula!
Ó, aqui, ó.
O pessoal tá brincando a matéria. Lula, vai! Lula!
So, Yeah, so at one point she was talking about how the reason Lula was jailed was because he gave education, housing, um, and healthcare to people. I don't know if you guys remember, but the way Lula was jailed was just completely ridiculous. And we've been following this for a while, and those charges were dropped. And so when people still say like, "Oh, he's corrupt," they don't have any proof of that. They just say it. And the United States, of course, had a lot of say in that whole aspect too. So, sorry, hold on, I'm getting a phone call. What?
I was just laughing. I was going to say, hello, this is Vladimir. Is Fiorella there?
It is Vladimir. He's calling me. He say, Fiorella, honey. And I said, Vladdy daddy.
Vladimir is here.
Vladdy daddy. It's Svetlana. Stop being creepy, Jackson Hinkle. There's Jackson Hinkle over there.
That's not Jackson.
I know it's not Jackson. I know I'm not fam. I'm not stupid. Oh my God.
Before we get into the numbers, let's kind of wrap up because we're going to talk about what's going to happen moving forward and what the chances are moving forward and what Lula has to do. I'm going to still stick by my statement that was a big win for Bolsonaro. A lot of people had, and a lot of polls had Lula winning pretty big. Big 14 percentage points margins. It was like 5% when it was all said and done.
Sorry, fam. Niet.
Well, wait,
I can't speak much Russian yet. Somebody asked me if I could. I'm just saying niet. Sorry. Okay. Go ahead, fam.
I thought you were saying niet in my situation. I believe that it was a big win for Bolsonaro, that he got to the second round, and that was his goal. A lot of people thought that Lula was going to wrap this up on the first round. And when you go to the country, you can understand why, because they're in chaos right now. There's mad social unrest. And there's a lot of poor, starving people in Brazil digging out of trash cans. The workers in that country are suffering. So I believe that Bolsonaro getting to the second round was definitely a big win. Does that mean I think he's going to win? No, I still think Lula's going to has enough to get him over the hill, and we'll explain why. Yeah. But at the end of the day, this is a big win. And when it comes to the system, of course, I always have issues with DREs. That's just the way I am because I would like a hand-marked paper ballot, but the system seems pretty secure. I mean, to the point where, once again, since it's where it's cast, it's counted, and there's no mail-in, and there's no drop boxes, you can have a Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro can have a representative every single freaking voting room and get those numbers and question those numbers and find out what areas are messed up. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be very hard to cheat this election the way everything they have in place. Not saying it's impossible, but it's improbable. So Bolsonaro has a chance now. If you're a Bolsonaro fan or you're supporting Bolsonaro, whatever you want, you got 3 weeks. It's the same thing I said to the Petro people when they were like, oh my God, this is going to be really tough because if these other groups combine together, they have enough votes to get over Petro. Then I said, well, don't worry about it. Hit the freaking streets. You got 3 weeks. Get out there and say why you're the best candidate and win. And I don't want to hear this BS and bullshit and crying in these accusations of lies. Trying to compare what happened to Bolsonaro to Donald Trump. Lula got huge crowds. He was the president twice before. Huge crowds. Unlike Joe Biden, who couldn't fill my living room, Lula's a different situation. He was the clear-cut favorite in this, and the fact he didn't wrap it up in the first round means that Bolsonaro, in my mind, overachieved. So shut up or start the Z in Italian-American, which means shut your mouth and go out and campaign and do what you got to do to show that you're the better person. You got 3 weeks to do it. And stop crying about the system because it's just false. We went and witnessed it. We know it. We were in with the election officials, guys, for 2 hours. Do we have that film? We'll put that out there eventually, right? For 2 hours we were there.
Yeah.
Question every single bit of it, guys. And it's an efficient system. You get in, you get out. So very hard to complain about the system itself. You're really just trying to hide the fact that Bolsonaro has a lot of areas in which he dropped the ball. A lot of areas where
40%.
Yeah.
40% of people that from this statistic that I got, 40% of people disapprove of Bolsonaro's actions thus far. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. And you know, it seems to be getting worse. Okay, the class distinction in Brazil I mean, it's insane. We went to a place with our colleague where you had to pay more if you wanted to be inside and had better service, and if you paid a little less, you got less service, and it like worse service. It was just the most. I'm like, what the hell is this? This is so
Yeah.
confusing. Why is there so much like class distinct? It is insane. It's
Yeah.
bad. So I think going forward we can just put is her video good? Her
Yeah, well,
Michaela's video?
let's just we're gonna put her up real quick, fam, but I want you to give a little insight to what's going on over here because this is really important right now because this is more than just about why Lula has a really good chance to win. In Colombia, the parties that lost, the parties that came in third and fourth in Colombia supported the right winger, right? So
Mhm.
now a lot of people were looking at it and they were like, "Oh my God, these votes are going to go to Hernandez. Those votes are enough to put him past Petro. It's an uphill battle for him to win. It's going to come down to the skinnies." Well, the opposite has happened. The two parties that were right underneath that finished third and fourth, that got 4% and 5% respectively, they are now supporting Lula. So you can see right here, and I'm going to put it up. Ciro Gomes, who finished fourth, party announces a support for Lula, bringing his 3% of new voters. Simone Tebet is expected shortly to endorse Lula, bringing him to 4%. I think she did this morning, fam. I could be wrong. Lula's lead now jumps from 48% to 55%, giving him a potential 12 percentage advantage over Bolsonaro if all vote along party lines. Now, let me mute our mics before we start this because I always have a bad habit of not muting our mics, and I'll play this.
Hello, I'm Micaela Velar. I'm political analyst based in Sao Paulo, Brazil, the biggest center electoral of the whole country. And we have breaking news from the general election that took place this October 2nd. Ciro Gomez political party just announced its endorsement to Lula, which represents 3% of the vote that goes to Lula, and Simone Tebet, the third candidate in getting the most vote in the general elections. It's just about to also endorse Lula candidate for president of Brazil. So that also could bring difference between Lula and Bolsonaro. That it's over and more than 10%, which is rarely to happen, but it could be an option. So what we got is that it is very, very likely to Lula to become the president of Brazil in less than a month. So that's a big expectation, and we hope to this to happen. So we got this news we wanted to share with you.
Thank you.
I was going to say, there's our good friend Micaela from Brazil. We love you, sweetheart. Thank you so much for that great report. Really was a help when we got on the ground with press credentials, meeting with MST, running around that whole country with us. She was awesome. She writes some amazing articles, fam. What she said is some big news for the Lula people because the people who finished third and fourth have thrown their weight behind Lula, which means it's going to be extremely hard now for Bolsonaro to win this election.
Yeah. Yeah, and and I also think Lula had said, right, this is now a different campaign, so now their campaign strategy is going to shift a little bit. They're going to be focusing more on getting just everybody else's vote and how Bolsonaro would just lead the country into further disaster. And I think that's going to be their main focus on this. Before it was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. This is what, I have done, blah, blah, blah. I think now it's going to be more like, you can't let this guy win because this is going to be um, not a good thing for a lot of people. And again, Brazil will exert their sovereignty in whatever Brazil decides will be. And and the fact that it was this close, yes, it's kind of worrisome for a lot of Brazilians. But at the same time, you have a very polarized country, just like our country is polarized, and you have people with different interests and different ideas of what's good for the country. And a lot of it, of course, is class oriented. But if let's say Bolsonaro were to win, I foresee strong social unrest in Brazil perhaps leading to a more radical type of turnout on the next time. And that's what that would happen, I think. But I do think Lula's going to take this in the second round, and we'll be following along just like we've been following along um, on the ground. We'll be probably having whoever goes there the second round. Um, on the show and talking about it as well. But this really set the parameters, I think, and being there the first round was important for us to really see where this is going. And I do think I want to thank you guys for helping us get there. It was a lot. It was super expensive. I also lost my phone. I mean, like, just
Still not over
it was
yet,
just
Sam. Still not over yet. We still got bills to
yeah.
pay. So, guys, go to givesendgo.com/the Convo Couch Brazil. Chris Leon also said, we need to dispel the myth of the white Latino and disabused Cubans and South Americans and even Puerto Ricans that they are white. Even if you are light skinned in Latin America, you are still mestizo. Did I say it right? Mestizo. You have some degree of indigenous or African blood, and what I've noticed is in Latin American countries like Cuba and Venezuela, recent that much more than others in those particular countries.
Yeah.
Arem, thank you for the Super 8 contribution, Arem. You are always appreciated on our couch. We love you. Thank you so much. You were a big part of getting us there and hopefully getting some of us home. Anyways, fam, anything else you want to talk about this? Because I think you had some stuff from the favelas. Did you put in, or did you want me to?
Twitter wouldn't let me put it up for whatever reason, so I'm gonna put it up later tonight, and it's just basically gonna be us when we went through the favelas, and I have a lot of footage to put up so you guys know all this reporting we did. We have some with the MST, we have some footage with the electoral system, so we can dispel all those things about the system not being fair. The MST talked about privatization and like basically the equivalent of Blackwater mercenaries killing people in the Amazon. And so I have a few of those, and then we have some interviews that Pasta did, right? If you haven't put
I
them
have
up.
a good ivermectin. Sorry, I have a good. Yeah, I got a good one, guys. I got a really good one. One of the first doctors to ever talk about it. I got a good one, and I'm gonna have it up in a couple days.
So yeah. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. I am now officially a Ruski state affiliated media.
Yes.
And I'll be back. We'll be back on Friday for sure. Maybe I'll do something tomorrow, but Friday for sure. I'll be talking about Russia, Ukraine, and everything that's developing with that because I'll be back soon, and a lot of things are happening.
Yes. So, fam, I don't know if you know this though. I just want to make
Oh
sure that
my
you
God.
know. What do you mean? I am a newspaper guy, and as a newspaper guy, I got to talk about newspaper things. I don't know why you're hating on me, right? So right here, I just want to let you know. You know who else is a newspaper guy, fam? Your boy. What's his name? Yeah, Fidel. But it says right here,
He's a
White House
newspaper man, not a guy. Different.
fam. Do you want me to show you on a motorcycle real quick?
Fam. Yeah, I rode a motorcycle, guys, for the first time.
Guys,
Twice.
I was also on the hill. But listen, I want to show this to the favelas really quick. So let me put this up really, really quick. And we're going to show it, and then we're going to get on out of here in 2 seconds because we did go to a favela, and it was just kind of like when you witness this is just like, holy cow, your perspective on life should change. So when I hear people say safe spaces, I just want them to just shut up because this is how people are living everywhere around the world, and this is disgusting. Take a look. This is a favela. I'm going to play it from the get-go.
Fam, and this is a good favela. Like this is like a good house. Like this is like one of the luckier houses, as we said on Jimmy's show, because they have power, and I think they do have water. But most of the time, the way it's done, they do it themselves. So they fix it themselves. It's for the power. It's called gato. And the power, you'll see the power lines, and I'll put them up later. The power lines are outside of the houses, So what often ends up happening is it's been raining a lot in Sao Paulo, and it rains and rains and rains. And once it rains, it starts. That's the number one cause of starting fires. Because I went to the favela twice. I went before the day of voting and on the day of voting itself. And so I got to really see different aspects of it. And so once the fire starts, what happens is these people's houses burn down, and with it, their documents. So that's often something that happens. And again, there are even more poor areas in Brazil that we haven't even gone to. Unmute yourself. You're muted.
It said that 9 out of 10, I've been gone for a little while. It said that 9 out of 10 Afro-Indigenous men from the favelas go to jail. This is Berto Brazil. The symbols on his shirt represent the local team's logos from his soccer club he started. He said, instead of these boys going to jail, now they can play football. And you can see it right there. He's got all these logos on his shirt, and it was just a really beautiful story. So I wanted to get that one out there too as well. And fam, the last thing I want to show for your audience out here, our audience right here, is that there's Vladdy Daddy. One last thing, fam. It's right here. I know I have it, so you can see it. Where's that? It was supposed to be here.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for the newspaper guy.
Oh, stop.
So there's Nico and I right there hanging on out. Nico and I hanging on out there. Freaking Brazil. He was there. It was so awesome to see him. Love you, Nico. There's me and Mr. Corey. I don't think it's anywhere, fam. There's been oh, there it is, fam. Listen. When you got a newspaper guy, fam, look at that. Look at that, fam. Fam, look at that.
Fidel's turning in his grave right now.
Look at that newspaper guy there. That's a newspaper guy.
The only way you can be like Fidel is if you denounce capitalism and come join the revolution in Cuba. And then other than that, you can't. You can be a newspaper guy, but you can't be a newspaper man. And guys, I've been practicing my monologue.
Oh Jesus, guys, she wouldn't stop the whole time. She's being a pain in the ass the whole time.
My cousin Minnie monologue to annoy him, and he admitted it got better, the accent, because it's the accent. He's like, he said my New York Italian woman accent sucks. So I was like,
yeah, Sam, I'm gonna play us out with some what do you call those things? Meerkats. What's a group of meerkats together?
That's you're thinking about the lemurs.
The lemurs.
The conspiracy. A group of lemurs is a conspiracy, yeah.
So a group of meerkats is whatever you want to call it. Guys, do us a favor. Hit up that Give, Send, Go one more time if you got a few dollars. GiveSendGo.com. The Convo Couch Brazil. I believe that's all the super raise. I'm going to take a look, fam. You might do a rant tomorrow. We were supposed to be on Terry's show soon. Terry Mattson. If you haven't seen, guys, I was on The Hill. Fam did her stuff on RT. I also we both went on Jimmy Dore together and Sabby Sabs. So there's videos out there giving a little bit more detail what we witnessed, what we saw, all that's going on. Anything you can do to help, GiveSendGo.com/The Convo Couch Brazil. We love you guys. Thank you so much. I am Pasta Jardula.
I am Fiorella Isabel, Russia State affiliated media couch.
Combo out, everybody. Here are some meerkats.
Imagine your deal.